Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Babcock, and welcome to BI1103 Reading the Old Testament. I'm your course creator for this semester, but I'm also your professor for this semester. And this is a brand new version of the course. So I'm going to ask that you give me as much feedback week to week as you have time to help me make improvements at the end of this semester so the course can be as solid as possible. And I've made lots of changes to both the reading and really revamped all of the assignments from the past. So if you have an old reading list or an old assignment list, be very careful because those likely will have changed for the semester. Now, this week, week one, is interpreting the Old Testament. And we'll see if this will change. There we go. Yep. Okay. So before we get started with the course, go and introduce yourself, not only to me, but the other folks in the class. It's really helpful if you go to the community post section in Blackboard and create an introductory thread under the class introductions discussion board. Introduce yourself to the rest of the class. You may provide as much or as little information about yourself as you would like. If you have a Facebook page, a blog, or a website, or a LinkedIn page, or a picture that you feel you would like to share, I'd love to see it, and I know the rest of the class would as well. So this week, as we get started, we're going to be exploring the Old Testament by genre. So we're going to look at narrative, we're going to look at poetry, and this week we're really going to try to introduce ourselves to how do we interpret the Old Testament. So we have three goals. First, to describe the presence of personal bias in biblical interpretation. One of the things we may not think much about is the fact that we bring our own preconceptions to bear on our interpretation. One easy one to say is that we believe that the Bible is in fact true. Well, that's a preconception, and it's a personal bias. So we want to look at what are our personal biases that we bring to bear on our biblical interpretation. Second, we want to identify challenges to effective biblical interpretation. For instance, most people in this class don't speak or write Hebrew or Greek. Well, the originals of the Old Testament were likely written mostly in Hebrew and Greek, so that's a challenge to our effective biblical interpretation. There are others as well. And then finally, to summarize the essential components of proper interpretation. Now, that sentence has a couple of tricky words. For instance, I've added proper interpretation. Well, who defines proper? Is that me? Is it you? Is it someone else? But also, if we can come together and get beyond proper, what essential components, what things does anyone who is reasonable need to do in order to interpret the Bible? So we're going to look at those as well. We're going to have two assignments and a discussion post. So for assignment 1.1, it's presuppositions about the nature of the Bible. So in part 1, you will identify and discuss 6 presuppositions about the nature of the Bible. In part 2, you will identify and discuss 4 categories of pre-understandings by each interpreter and how each might change from a pre-understanding to an understanding. Now, your reading is going to help you a great deal with this assignment. But be sure in all of your assignments for this course, especially those with me, be sure to support your position using quotes from the reading and biblical citations. These courses or these assignments are not designed merely about your personal belief, but it's your reasoned belief. And a reasoned belief is supported by other academic scholars and by the Bible. Also, while adding your own analysis and reflection, meaning I do want you to tell me what you think, but I also want you to show me what others think and how they support your position. And then finally, be sure to add a conclusion to each of your assignments summarizing what you have personally learned. Submit your completed assignment by clicking on the Assignment 1-1 Presuppositions about the nature of the Bible link, which is above in your actual Moody online portal, and then attaching your assignment file. Our assignment 1-2 is challenges to effective interpretation. And I would like for you to start with this assignment this week because I'm asking that before you read Klein chapters 1 and Fee and Stewart chapters 1 and 2, I want you to interview 5 or 6 people and ask each person the following questions. Now, in an ideal world, do this with Christians, but if you do it at work, that's fine. I want you to ask them, what are 3 challenges to interpreting the Bible? So this is really an interview or a survey where you're just coming up with what do people say are their top challenges to interpreting the Bible. And then secondly, how would you overcome each of these challenges? So have them list 3 challenges and then go back and say, well, on this first one, how would you overcome it? On the second and on the third. Then I want you to keep those answers for the 5 or 6 people. And then after reading Klein and Fee and Stewart, I want you to download and complete the Challenges to Effective Biblical Interpretation worksheet. And you're going to record your responses to the first part and then add your own information. You will list and discuss the top 5 identified challenges from your survey and solutions. Then I want you to list 4 challenges to effective biblical interpretation and ways to overcome those challenges found in the reading. And then I want you to really spend a minute reconciling the two. Did people, without doing the reading, come up with essentially the same list, or did they come up with different lists, and why? So discuss how your survey responses are similar and different than the reading. In all assignments, as with assignment 1-1 and all of them this semester, be sure to support your position with quotes from the reading and biblical citations while adding your own analysis and reflection, and be sure to add a conclusion summarizing what you have personally learned. Finally, we have a discussion post this week, Interpreting the Bible. I want you to reflect on these 2 questions. What is needed for a correct interpretation of the Bible? And secondly, can anyone read and interpret the Bible, or do we need some kind of specialized training? Now, be careful with this question because on the one side, I think we all would say, well, anyone can read and interpret the Bible. And then the following question is, well, why are you here then? What is it that you expect to learn at Moody that somehow makes you better prepared for the interpretation of the Bible? And then another way to turn that back around is to say, well, if you need this training to interpret the Bible, then can really anyone interpret it? So spend a few minutes trying to come to the bottom of what you believe the answers to these questions might be. And then after reading Fees chapter 1 and 2, write a 2 to 3 paragraph position statement on the essential components of proper interpretation. Be sure to touch on who is qualified to interpret the Bible. In your response to other students, examine their argument and explore whether their argument is both thorough and convincing. So instead of just saying, wow, what a great post, say, wow, what a great post, but then go in and say, okay, now in reading the specifics, here are some areas that I want to just delve a little deeper or dive a little deeper into your argument. In all assignments for this short course, be sure to support your position with quotes from the reading and Bible citations while adding your own analysis and reflection. All right, so I've said that 3 times about supporting with quotes from the Bible and from the reading while adding your own personal analysis. So hopefully we've hit that enough times that people heard it. On your discussion post, the initial posts are due, as with all of them, on Friday, with ongoing engagement over the weekend, finishing up on Monday. Now, I have a video for you to watch on effective discussion posts, and I grade discussion posts a little differently than many faculty members. Just because you make 2 discussion posts does not mean you fulfill the discussion post section of the grading. For me, I want to see ongoing interaction throughout the weekend in order to get a perfect score on discussions. And I do that because this class is limited in our ability to have interaction between students like we would have in a classroom. So I'm wanting to see ongoing, meaningful discussions. One of the things that happened are batched responses. Whoops, let me go back. Often, where somebody will come in and make 5 comments over a 15-minute period on 5 different posts, and then we don't see you again at all for the weekend. To me, that's like making one discussion, because all you're doing is you read through, you make a comment, read through, make a comment. That's not ongoing engagement in discussion. That's just making comments. And you're doing it over a batched time frame where it's a 15-minute or a 30-minute period. I'm wanting to see 2 to 3 different logins at 2 to 3 different times, and in an ideal sense, engaging with one another more than once on a position or idea. That's what I mean by full marks. Otherwise, it's more of a B-level kind of response. So some last thoughts. One, I'm really excited about this semester and about getting to know each of you. Please go into the introductions and introduce yourselves. I look forward to a great semester, and feel free to call me or email me with any questions. Email's the fastest way to get a hold of me. I travel a lot, but I do watch my emails multiple times throughout the day. And I try to close out all my emails before I head to bed. So my response time should be less than 24 hours. So have a great day. Thanks for being in the course, and I'll talk to you soon.